Man, I hate getting lost. It all starts out with being 16 and you get your first car and you're driving down Interstate 95 in Connecticut, and before you know it, you're headed in the wrong direction and there's no exit for the next 10 miles. Then you get off at that exit and you bang a Yui, as we like to say in Connecticut. And then you find that instead of heading south, you're actually on a different interchange and you're headed west. And then you spend the better part of your day just trying to get back to where you started. And then it moves on to college where, okay, mom, okay, dad, bye-bye, headed off to be an adult. And you get on the train, and then you get off, and then you exchange, you change trains at the wrong station, and then before you know it, you're in Boston instead of upstate New York. Way to go, Mr. Educated. And then you move to Manhattan, the center of the universe, a city which is actually laid out in a grid pattern, okay? So it's actually impossible to get lost. But me, I get out at 34th Street. I get out at 34th Street and I invariably wind up going in the wrong direction because everything looks exactly the same, north, south, east, and west at that subway exit. And I am in my own head so much that I've gone 2 blocks before I realize, oh crap, I just wasted 20 minutes and I'm in a rush. I'm going to be late. I kind of compared myself to a bird for a while because a bird has to fly around in a circle for a little while until he finds his bearings and can shoot home. And that's what I needed to do for at least a couple of years when I first moved to Manhattan. I had to walk around the block to figure out east from west. You don't feel very bright when things like that happen to you. You really don't. So I just hate getting lost. You wouldn't want to put me, in the middle of the ocean or the desert. Of course, that's where I wound up when I went to Burning Man one year. And now Burning Man it's an arts festival out in the middle of the Nevada desert. Now, I'm making it out to be like it's this one giant place where you're going to get lost, but really, no, it's 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 plus people who come together for a week of unbridled creativity and expression and diversity. It's amazing, really. Everybody should do it at least once in their life. Anyone who comes, they try to be different, they try to do their own thing. There's no one thing to do there. People always ask me, so what do you do there? And I say, well, what would you want to do there? And that's what you can do. It's completely up to logistics and know-how. Whatever you want to truck out there, you can make it happen. It just takes the will. People build 50-foot statues, people hand out Pepperidge Farm cookies, and people bring, they build disco palaces and dance to dubstep all night, and just about anything that you can think of. Myself, I signed up to be with a camp called the Heebie-Jeebies. It's this sort of quasi-spiritual yoga meditation type camp set back a distance into the campgrounds. So it's pretty quiet there. It's awesome. You pay $400 and you're set up with them for the entire week plus a day or two that the festival lasts. And they supply the food, they supply the tents, they supply the showers, they supply vinegar to soak your feet in because the dust dries out your feet. Now you can choose to go there in a Chevette and some camouflage netting and eat granola for a week and a half if that's what you want to do. But I decided to be a bit more comfortable, and I'm glad I did. The best part about the Heebie-Jeebies is that you have access to all of their classes and all of the healing that goes on. So imagine this, if you can. They build this giant circus tent, right? The back 1/4 of it is dedicated to the healing arts. There's massage tables there where people are giving, of course, massages, but they're also giving crystal therapy and talk therapy and color therapy and all sorts of healing and meditation going on back there. And then in the waiting area, which is the other 3/4 of the circus tent. You've got just about every single beautiful person in the world just waiting there, hanging out. Everyone looks like gods. They're just to escape the heat of the day. They come into the tent and they sit on the rugs, which have carpeted the entire area of the tent, and on the carpets are hundreds and if not thousands of pillows, and people are lounging around just looking beautiful in their tribal wear with their dreadlocks and their beads and their rings and their tattoos and their gorgeous yoga bodies. And it's just wall-to-wall people, and everyone's loving each other, and everyone's groovy, and everybody's peaceful, and everybody's happy, and everybody's mellow, and everyone's just so chill. And then at the very, very back of the tent, you've got the Hare Krishnas dancing around, just spreading those good vibes. It's hot, it's slow, and you just love everybody, and you think to yourself, man, I am really at the center of something that's happening. Something just so groovy. And I hate to sound like, I come from the 60s, because I don't. I hate to sound retro, but that's the only vocabulary that's good enough to describe what's happening right in front of you. People are there looking into each other's eyes, not speaking. People are there making love right in front of you. And it's okay. It's like water off a duck's back after the first 5 minutes. You'd be surprised. So, being part of the heebie-jeebie camp is not all, love and good feelings. You have to pitch in. A tight ship takes many hands. So, in addition to helping with the mess tent and, putting up the tents and striking the tents at the end of the festival, you also put in work wherever you can. Whether that's cleaning up, whether that's hauling trash, whether that's building showers, or, you can give classes, or you can give massages. And that's what I did. I gave massages. I'm known galaxy-wide. So, after I finished my shift of I'd say, God, I must have massaged at least 30 people that day. My arms were sore. My fingers were killing me. My forearms were just these giant stabbing pains. So I really needed to shake it out and relax. And I signed up for a healing session with this young, very, very attractive woman named Annalise. I couldn't take my eyes off her from the moment I got there. She had long, barely wavy chestnut hair, so thick. When she tied it in a braid, it was like rope. Perfect skin with just a smattering of freckles across the bridge of her nose. Teeth so perfect you could zip them up. Really, it didn't hurt to look at her. Beautiful, beautiful young girl. I'd say about 23. And not just beautiful physically. You spoke to her for 5 minutes. All of a sudden, your heart just slowed down. You felt calm. You felt like you were talking to an old soul. So I gravitated towards her. I asked if she had a slot free, and she said, yeah, hop up on the table. So I hopped up on the table, and she does Reiki or something. She holds out her hands, and vibrations come out, and it's supposed to heal you. I've never seen any evidence for it, but who am I to judge? So she says, what's the problem? What are you, what's bothering you? What ails you? So we talk for a little bit. I just sort of randomly throw things out. And then I hit on, one thing that's always bothered me about myself, I get lost real easy. Man, I just hate getting lost. So I told her about, driving around suburban Connecticut, not knowing where the hell you're going, or getting out at 34th Street, or, taking the wrong train. And she listens like she'd heard it before, like she'd heard it 100 times before. She goes, well, I can see why you get angry. It must be pretty frustrating. And at one point, it must have actually helped you to get angry. I don't know why. I can't begin to tell you. But you don't need to do that anymore. Tell yourself, at least a couple of times a day, for 15 minutes, all right? This is my lesson to you. For at least 15 minutes a day, a couple of times a day, tell yourself, I don't have to be angry when I get lost anymore. It's not useful. It just hurts me. So keep telling yourself that, Jesse. And it'll eventually fade away that you have to be angry about being lost. Because, being lost is just part of the creative process. And that echoed. Being lost is part of the creative process. Being lost is part of the creative process. Being lost is part of the creative process. And I said, okay, thank you. Thank you so much. It played in my head like a broken record for the next 48 hours. I kept thinking that. Being lost is part of the creative process, part of the creative process, part of the creative process. While I was washing dishes, while I was stirring egg beaters and listening to Ravi Shankar over the loudspeakers, while I was giving massages, while I was just walking, I was consumed with the thought. And then, as it will always happen, you're put to the test, quite unexpectedly. Now, this is the way Burning Man is laid out, right? You've got 60, 70,000 people, and so there are several thousand campgrounds. So the way it's legally and officially laid out, it's like a giant horseshoe. All the campgrounds are like a giant horseshoe. Now, smack dab, if it's like almost a closed circle, smack dab in the center of that horseshoe is just emptiness. It's 2 square miles, I think, of just empty desert. Empty desert, and it's pitch black in there, at night anyway. I wandered out there, just thinking, just wandering. I walked out of the horseshoe with all its brilliantly lit campsites, and people talking and lighting feathers and lighting fires, and wearing their feathers and playing music and dancing, and because I just needed too much going on, So I walked out to the deep playa. Again, thinking, and after a while, I started to feel drowsy, maybe after an hour or two. And I hadn't been looking where I was going. Surprise, surprise. And I looked around, and I was like, oh shit, I have no idea what direction I came from. And the thing about being, smack dab in the middle of deep playa is that when you look around yourself, even though it's shaped like a horseshoe and there is a way out, at ground level, you look like you're surrounded. You look like you're surrounded by neon-lit campsites, all one story, with no real reference point. Okay? Because it's a very surreal experience being out there in deep playa, because you're surrounded by man-made structures, lasers shooting up out of the ground, and neon-lit pyramids and neon-lit squares and art cars throwing flames 30 feet into the air. But everything's at a real distance. Okay? It's almost like walking on the moon. Okay? But a moon that's got a campsite with 50,000 freaks running around, causing chaos. So there I was, and I realized I don't know north from south, from east from west. Everything looks exactly the same no matter what direction I'm looking at. And I started to feel a little panicked. But then I was like, wait a minute, wait. First of all, relax. You've got food in your belly, you've got clothing on your back. You're not in a bad situation. You've got lights all around you. You're obviously near people. Think for a second. And then, bong, being lost is part of the creative process. Okay, being lost is part of the process. Being lost is part of the process. Being lost is part of the creative process. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shut my eyes. I'm going to spin around a few times like I'm playing Pin the Tail on the Donkey. And that's what I did. And when I opened my eyes, things looked even worse. Everywhere I looked, it looked exactly the same. I had no idea what direction I could have gone. So I did it again. I opened my eyes. You could have hung me upside down and I would have felt more oriented to my surroundings. I was lost. But I took stock. I said, okay, how am I feeling? Recognize what you're going through. Look around you. Remember how this looked. Remember how this felt. And then I said, all right, being lost is part of the creative process. I'm going to get really creative here. This time, I shut my eyes, I started to run backwards, which is not bright on the deep playa, because you can get hit by an art car, one of those flame-throwing art cars. It's pitch black out there, and they wouldn't see me. You get hit by a bicyclist. I don't even know if there's scorpions out there. I think it's too, I don't know, I think it's just too arid out there for anything to live. And then when I stopped running after, I counted off to a count of 60. And when I opened my eyes again, still lost. And it was all right. I felt completely calm. I felt completely taken care of. I felt completely confident. And if I hadn't said it before already enough times, I'll say it to you again now. This is the moral of the story. Being lost is part of the creative process, and all who wander are not lost.